I went out to search for the cheapest Audi RS3 that money could buy, and in that search I found this, a 2016 Audi RS3 finished in metallic Sepang blue, only about 47,000 miles on the clock, but there was a catch. It came from a salvage auction. So why was it in a salvage auction? It was marked as a category N vehicle and, most importantly, a non-runner. But the damage didn't turn out to be bad at all. Of course, we had an obliterated alloy wheel. Every single arm, wishbone, control arm were completely bent on this corner, so we went ahead and replaced everything. That is everything except the shock absorber, spring and the hub assembly. The hub looked fine and I'm really hoping it's fine, but we'll have to take it on a drive before we find out. Onto this front passenger wheel. The alloy wheel itself was absolutely fine, so that saved us a bit of money because that rear alloy turned out to be £200 used. So on this front corner, all that we could see that was damaged was the inner and outer tie rod. In fact, only the outer tie rod had a little kink in it, but just for safety measure, I went ahead and changed the inner and outer. Visually, the wishbone looked absolutely fine, but we'll find out for sure once it goes on an alignment machine. And then finally, onto the interior. This passenger seat airbag deployed and the curtain airbag deployed. So we got the seat retrimmed with a brand new airbag, and we went ahead and put a brand new curtain airbag into that roof. And that brings us on to today. The plan for today is, if you remember in the last video, we shouted out for any PDR guys to fix out this dent for us. I found a PDR guy not too far away, so we've got that booked in. But before I go there, I need a four-wheel alignment, and of course, I need to take it for a test drive. I need to feel the power of 500 brake horsepower, MRC tune, with an Venturi intake and a full stainless steel catback exhaust. I need to hear that, I need to feel it. So before we do anything, let's go for our first test drive. Here we go, we're on the road. So far so good. The tracking is a slight bit out, but nothing undrivable. In fact, the car is traveling in a straight line, and that's because I marked the camber bolts when I removed them, and so the camber bolts are in exactly the same place as I took them out. So, shall we open her up? Into dynamic we go. 3, 2, 1. Damn! Damn! What's that noise? We've got a horrible noise coming from the back. I don't know if the mic's picking that up. Wow, that was fast! The exhaust is super loud, so it's hard to hear what that noise is. But it seems like when we get to about 50 miles per hour, we're getting a humming noise on the rear end. But it does sound like it's coming from that passenger side. Okay, we're gonna have to spin it back and get this noise sorted. It's making all sorts of funky noises from that rear end. Let it off! Wow, this is fast. It's nothing like the Golf R. Oh my goodness. I'm speechless. I'm honestly speechless. This is probably the fastest car I've ever driven. I've never felt a car take off like that. And it's just so addictive. Oh wow, okay, let's get back. I think we're gonna need a new hub, or a bearing at least. So let me give TPS a call, see how much a bearing is. I'd rather buy one brand new, as it's a wear item, so I'd probably get a brand new bearing, depending on the price, and we'll take it from there. And also, we've got a brake pad warning sign, and that wasn't there before. When I took that rear suspension apart, there was barely any pad left, so let's get back, change that bearing. The way I'm confident it's that bearing, and the reason is if I turn right, and put the weight of the car on that side, on the passenger side, like that, the whirring gets a lot louder. Whereas if I swing to the left, the noise almost goes completely. So when I'm putting the weight of the car onto the driver's side and away from that wheel, the noise goes almost completely because the weight's off that wheel. It's not feeling the pressure of it. But if I swing to the right and put the weight on that side, on that wheel, then the whirring gets really loud. I think if it was the rear diff, then the noise would just be constant and it doesn't matter what speed you're going. When we're going a really low speed, it doesn't make any noise at all. So I'm hoping it's not the rear diff. If I had to put my money on it, it's going to be that rear bearing. So let's head back, source the bearing. Do I change the hub as well? If the bearings hit that hard, chances are the hub's bent as well. So, okay, let's head back, do some shopping online, and I'll check back in with you guys in a bit. We just got back from that short-lived test drive. Wow, this is a machine. It's a shame that noise has come, but all I'm thinking now is give TPS a call. I haven't got a TPS account, so we're gonna have to give Donnie a call. Let me give Donnie a call, get a price on a rear bearing for one of these, and then we'll take it from there. Hello, Donnie.
Yo.
How are you, Donnie?
All good, all good.
You know you've got a TPS account.
Yeah.
I'm going to send you the reg for my RS3. Can you just get me a quote for a rear bearing, please?
No problem.
Alright, thank you. Call me back straight away.
Alright.
A few moments later.
Donnie's ringing back. Hello, Donnie.
Good news for you.
Well, how much?
Your bearing's gonna cost you £450.
£450? For one?
Yeah. Just for the one.
No. Okay, forget that. Thank you, Donnie, thank you. Right, forget that. We are not paying £450 for a wheel bearing. Let's jump on eBay and see what we can find.
A few moments later.
Right, so after a bit of shopping on eBay, I have found a wheel bearing with the hub and in fact the trailing arm. I don't think our trailing arm was bent at all, but I found all three off a breaker's yard for £25. £25. The dealers were charging us £450. There's actually pictures of the car that got broken, and the passenger rear looked absolutely fine, so I'm really hoping it's fine, but I'd rather buy 10 of those than one from the dealers. So it's actually turned out to be quite local, so I'm going to jump in the car, not that car, jump in the Ford Ranger, go grab that hub and bearing, and then we'll have to get it changed.
A few hours later.
Right, so £25 later, I've got the hub, bearing, and in the car I've got the trailing arm. But that's amazing, it comes in complete, so even if this guard is bent on ours, we can get the whole thing changed. I was really hoping to just go for a nice blast, cruise in the sunset, and enjoy the RS3. Let's get it jacked up and get all this changed. First things first, to get these rear calipers off on any sort of new Audi, because they're motorized, we need to plug in the diagnostics machine, VCDS, get that caliper retracted, and then this caliper will come out. Wow, it's a good job we got these pads out. Look at the state of that. Barely any pad left. Almost looks broken. You can see chips of it broken off there. Right, so let me show you what I'm going to start with. So I've got the caliper off, just held up on the trailing arm. And then to get the hub off, we need to get this upper arm removed. So a nut and bolt holding that arm. Then we've got the lower wishbone, which we changed in the last episode, so just the one nut and bolt going through there. And then it looks like there are just two bolts down right at the bottom holding the hub to the trailing arm. So about 5 or 6 bolts, nothing too difficult. I've already taken the drive shaft bolt out, so let's get to it. Right, so that is the old hub off, and while we're at it, we might as well go ahead and put some new shoes on her. So I've got some Brembo rear discs and pads. So whatever was causing that issue, hopefully now it's gone. But just look at the difference between the old hub and the bearing and the new one. That old hub was absolutely rusted. But to be honest, the whole car underneath is rusted pretty bad. It must be a northern car, but let's hope this fixes the issue. So I'm just going to clean this up with a wire wool, get some copper grease on there, smack the new discs on, and I'll have to do the other side as well, the discs and pads. So let's get to it. And that is the hub assembly done. It took a lot longer than I expected, and that's because the bolts were just so niggly to get to. They were all rusted, but luckily 2 or 3 of the bolts we'd already taken out when we changed all the arms, so it made the job a lot easier. Those bolts just zapped out, but the ones that we hadn't touched, they were just rusted in there, and they took a bit of heat, a lot of impact gunning, and eventually it came out. While we were at it, we put some new discs and pads on, so now everything in this corner besides the shock and the spring has been changed, but we did go over some bumps and there was no noises coming from the spring itself or the shock. Really hoping that fixed it. If not, it's gonna be the diff. So let's get this wheel on, get the driver side disc and pad changed, and we'll be good to go for our second run.
Hop in the car, watch it go vroom, vroom. I told them all that I go soon.
Discs and pads done on the rear. All that's left now is that little dent on the wing, so I'm going to slowly drive it over because I'm getting late for an appointment for a PDR, so that's a paintless dent removal company, to get that dent removed without having to paint the wing. Unfortunately, they said no recording on site, so I'm just going to drop the car off to them and then pick it up in about an hour or so.
A few hours later.
And just like that, 1 hour later, dropped the car off, picked it up. Let's have a look what kind of job he's done. Good news and bad news. Good news is the dent 90% is improved. Before it was like a massive shiner, it just took the spotlight of the whole car, but now at least the body line is back. Now when I dropped the car off, he did say once he's seen it in person, the sharpness of the dent is quite harsh, so it's going to be difficult to get it back to 100%. So if you look at it very close up, you can see little dimples where his hammer's been tapping. But I'm not complaining. I had a quote to get a smart repair that was about £380 plus VAT. And the problem with these paint jobs is what I've experienced is the job is just not 100%. If you looked at the bonnet compared to the wing, it just isn't 100%, and I don't know. I thought I'd try something different. I'm quite happy though. For £100, including VAT, bought in that paintless dent removal, and it has improved the whole look of the car. I don't really care what the car looks like. I'm just dying to go for a drive. Let's go for that first test drive.
In the car, watch it go vroom, vroom. I told them all that I go soon.
Right, so we're back on the roads, going around 30 miles per hour. Before, the noise of the wheel bearing, hopefully it was the wheel bearing, used to come around 50 miles per hour. And it used to just get worse and worse. 60, 70 was just getting really bad. So let's open her up. 3, 2, 1. Traction control light. No noise. A lot of wind noise, but that bearing sounds absolutely fine. Don't want to go too harsh on the brakes just yet. They're brand new rear discs and pads. Traction control kicking in. Wow, the power just doesn't slow down. So as you're coming up to a faster and faster speed, the power is just so linear. Those H&R springs were just planted to the ground. Wow. car is performing unbelievable. There's no noises, no unwanted noises anyway. The brakes feel fantastic. Oh, and I should mention, on the way back from the PDR, I had the tracking done, so now the wheel is 100% straight. It doesn't pull left or right. Oh, what a relief, and what a journey that was. And we're gonna do a full price breakdown because this car worked out mega cheap. I was expecting maybe 2,000 or 3,000 in repair bills, but you'll be shocked how cheap the parts came in. They were really cheap. I was expecting, because it's an RS3, the parts would be mega expensive, but nothing like that. But let me just experience this a little bit more and then we'll go into the pricing. It takes your breath away. It honestly takes your breath away. And that exhaust, I don't know if the mic's picking it up. Unbelievable. Speechless. Even in the bends, credit to those H&R springs. Although it is very bumpy, but when you're going around these little S-bends, wow. So before we get too carried away, found a nice place to pull over, let's go over money. Now, I don't do this to make money. Honestly, there's a lot of people out there that do rebuild cars just to make a quick buck, make some profit, maybe a side hustle, that kind of thing. This is purely a passion thing. I'm talking about money because I know a lot of you guys are interested in it, so let's go over the figures. So first thing was buying the car. That was from Copart. You saw in the last episode I bid 12,200. I didn't want to go over 10,000. I just got a bit carried away. Never had an RS3, always wanted an Audi RS3. 12,200 plus the fees came to about £13,000. £100 delivery came in just over 13,000, the car delivered. First thing wrong with this car was this rear suspension. The whole suspension, all the bits cost me under £100. I think £85, including that £25 hub. Couldn't believe it because the RS3 suspension is different to any of the Audis. I believe the A3s, the S3s are different. The hub is definitely different. So I was unbelievably shocked. £85. I didn't believe it myself. So here's a few screenshots. Then was the two blown airbags. We had the passenger seat airbag and the curtain airbag. Curtain airbag, £60 on eBay. And the seat cost me about £100 for a new airbag and retrim. Once the suspension was fixed on this corner, we needed a brand new wheel. The tyre was fine, it's a Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tyre, so I wanted all matching sets. Because it wasn't damaged, I had the old tyre put on the new rim. The rim itself came to £200 and £10 to have the tyres switched. So £210. And then finally, the little dent here that we just had PDR'd about an hour ago. That came to £100 with the VAT, so £100 repair. So a grand total of 13,600. I haven't included the discs and pads that we changed. They were another about £150. Brembo discs, Brembo pads, under 14,000. I'm trying to think to myself, have I missed something? Because that seems way too cheap, but under 14,000 has bought in this Audi RS3, 47,000 miles on the clock, MRC stage 2 tuned, eVenturi carbon fiber intake. I cannot believe it. That intake alone retails at £1,700. This car is a mega buy. Let's just sit back and take a look at this beautiful car.
I pull up in that Lambo with the 10 on it. Everything on flip, 14 out of rims on it. I pull up in that, 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 pull up Lambo with the 10 on it.
And we're back. A successful first test drive. And what a machine this car is. It performs 10 out of 10. An unbelievable car. And it just makes me smile so much bigger knowing how much we paid for it. I think even if you included all the tracking, if you included every penny, we are still sub £14,000 on this car. I would call that a success. These cars go anywhere 17, 18, 19,000 pounds. This is a Cat N, not a Cat S. There's a lot of Cat S's floating around, but it's a Cat N. None of the bodywork was damaged. It's had no paint work. That little dent on the front, which has been taken out now. So if you enjoyed this one, our next build is coming in about half an hour or so. Venus Rescue is bringing it in for us. So if you enjoyed this one, hit that subscribe button and join us on the next one. Boom!